to another episode of the All-Star Advocacy Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Castro. And this week we have on a very, very special guest. For those of you who have been listening, we've had, we started with, baseball guests. Last week was our first soccer guest, those of you that remember Sal Zizzo. But this week, for any football fans, listening in or watching, we have our first football player. And he is originally he's from St. Louis, Missouri. That's where he grew up. But he played football at UCLA. He was drafted by the Chicago Bears and went on to play for the Indianapolis Colts, where he won a Super Bowl back in 2006 with them. And his post-playing career is really where he found himself here in San Diego and has made San Diego his home. So it's our pleasure to invite on the podcast Mr. Bryan Fletcher. Welcome, Bryan. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, your and I relationship was kind of, this isn't kind of the first time we've crossed paths. I think it was back in, I want to say August or September of this fall, where it was a mutual friend of the nonprofit who kind of put us in touch. And I think from that moment on, I think we were both very much just wanting to be more engaged in San Diego, do more of a part with the community. And I think that's where we kind of, vibed. And from that moment, I've always felt like this is a guy we needed to stay in touch with. And hopefully, down the road, we would, end up seeing, these things kind of come to fruition. So just wanted to say, I'm glad we're finally doing this and spending a little time to share more of your story, how you came, to San Diego and what you're doing today, how you're using your platform. So, yeah, man.
I really appreciate being here. It's great to talk to you again. And I love what you all are doing, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. And so I guess before we really dive into your particular story, there's no way to not address, the main conversation, which, we're recording this a day after the Derek Chauvin verdict, which came down, this week. And, I just love to get maybe your initial, reaction to the outcome and kind of, your thoughts, your general thoughts on where we can see ourselves going from here, from this point
on. You're referring to the Derek Chauvin verdict? Well, it's complicated. So I watched a black man like me, be murdered. Doesn't matter what he did before, doesn't matter a fake talk of a fake, $20 bill counterfeit. For 9 minutes and 26 seconds, he did absolutely nothing wrong. And he was murdered anyway. Okay, so Derek Chauvin, the police officer, was convicted. Okay. So in my lifetime, I've seen this before. Before my lifetime, in black and white videos, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Before black and white videos, I've seen still photos of this. Before still photos, I've read books about this. So progress. Have we progressed? Of course. But am I jumping up and down about this? No.
Right.
So is this a game? I'm just thinking out loud. Is this a game? So you give me Derek Chauvin's head on a silver platter, but you're taking away and making it harder for me to vote on the very judge some of the very judges who are deciding, who are. I mean, obviously juries decide, but
The judge that presides over.
some of the very judges who are giving the sentences. So I'm supposed to jump up and down because Derek Chauvin was convicted, but I can't give a bottle of water to somebody standing in line in Georgia to vote. So you give me something and you take something from me. Is that progress?
Mm.
But particularly for the Black person, you have no choice but to hope. You have no choice but to believe that things are going to get better. Then I'll bring up something else. My Latino brothers and sisters are getting killed the same way. Why aren't we protesting for them? Why aren't we marching for them?
Adam Toledo, right?
Yeah.
So many others here in San Diego.
Why? Is this a game? Is this a game? Are we? Is it just more profitable for the news networks to cover a Black man getting killed by a white person? Have the Latinos not gotten there yet where people care?
Mm. Mm.
Who are we as a people? And we go from one situation to another. We think, and I understand, like, we're human beings. We have to categorize things to understand them. One era for another. This was the civil rights era. This is this era. This is another era, or this situation, or this situation. But I just tend to think holistically.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, it kind of just, does it all blur as one, and it's just kind of a different flavor of the month, right? It's just, is it the same actual, thing going on? It's just manifesting in different ways.
So yes. So what is the difference other than the style of it to keep folks from voting by hanging them, by pure intimidation, by literacy tests, by all of those things that happen? What is the difference between that and what is going on today? Mm-hmm. with the Supreme Court sort of gutting the Civil Rights Act, what you're seeing in Georgia, what you saw in Wisconsin, what you saw in other, the goal is to keep certain people from voting.
Right.
Whether you have to lynch them or whether you make them do backflips. If you can't do a backflip, you can't vote. Mm-hmm. The goal is the same.
Right.
So there is no, like, is it progress that you didn't kill me for wanting to vote, or you just made it so hard? You made me stand in line so long, and now I can't even, somebody can't even give me water. If I forget my water, I just got to pass out.
Right. But either way, you're taking away that life who votes. Right.
Exactly. The game is the same, but the tactics have changed, and that is where I'm expected to jump up and down because Chauvin was convicted. When we can go back for 400 years and you were doing the same thing.
Right.
But at the same time, yeah, Chauvin should have been convicted. We'll see what the sentence is in 8 weeks. But I am just not a person to. I just, like I said, I see things holistically.
Sure.
This is not a situation where I will give folks pats on the back because we've been here before. And we're getting where we are now, Michael, where we are now, in my opinion, I'm just, and I'm not speaking for the Black community. I'm speaking for myself. We're not monolithic.
Of course.
I will say that. James Baldwin, novelist, brilliant man. He said something. He said, what do we do when our kids can't believe what the white man says and can't totally believe what I.R. Martin said? Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They've seen themselves done poorly by white folk. They've seen Black folk tell them stuff, but they don't see themselves moving forward. So they begin to fight to figure it out for themselves. And they're getting slaughtered in the streets. We've got to figure this out. We have to figure this out. That conundrum of being in between, not knowing where to go, not knowing a certain direction. That is what I'm seeing in this generation. Like, I could just go to my dad, and my dad, I grew up in a family, my mom, dad, set a standard, set directions, but not every kid has that.
Right.
And a lot of children today, a lot of folk today are trying to figure it out themselves. This world, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling on.
No. Go ahead.
But a lot of people are trying to just figure it out themselves. And us and Latinos and a lot of people are suffering consequences that just should not happen. Like, how do we rectify that? It's much bigger than a police officer killing a Black person and he goes to jail. Hooray, let's go to the next one.
Right. It's huge.
It's a much deeper issue. It's a much deeper issue that nobody is really talking about.
Right.
George Floyd, they're not going to be talking about him on CNN in 3 years.
Maybe 3
They're
weeks.
going to be talking about the next, right. They're going to be talking about the next Black person that get killed. Right. Somebody already got killed today.
Columbus, Ohio was at the same time, right?
Yeah. So are we going to keep playing this game?
Dante Wright, 10 miles away a week ago or so.
Yes.
So,
Are we going to keep playing this game? Or are we going to deal with deeper issues? Are we going to have conversations? I'm not just talking about the white community. I'm talking about all of us, because we're all connected. We're all connected. How Dr. King understood this. He's mired in the South with Black issues. He saw Cesar Chavez in California.
Yes.
And Cesar Chavez, what he was trying to do was connected to what Dr. King was trying to do. If you treat Cesar Chavez and his people like this,
the Filipino community that got together with the Latinos.
Yes, it's all connected. It's all connected.
Yeah.
So I have to care about you. You're not Black, but I have to care about what happens to you, just beyond just being a good person, because if it can happen to you, it can happen to me.
That's right. That's right.
So I care about this. I care about the hatred going on against the Asian community. I care about what's going on with the Latino community and this immigration stuff and a lot of the things that are going on against them. They're my brothers. They're going through. We are different races, we eat different food, but we are going through the same thing. And how can I care about myself if I say, hey, don't treat me like that, but you can treat them like that?
Yeah.
Well, no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't, the cycle will just continue.
Right. And that's.
But I'm sorry, I was rambling on. I'll let you go to the next.
No. I mean, that's real. And that's the reaction. I feel like, in a way, I, watching it yesterday, I get, if we're talking about a just verdict of the two options, of course, I think everyone wants to believe their eyeballs for what you saw. So of course that is that outcome. But this is, we were just speaking about this on our last IG Live. It's a system. This is a systemic issue, and it has its roots in supremacy. And so it's the system that created this to happen. And, whether it's an act, a policing act, or, what comes of it, until we get to the root cause, until we get to that conversation of the system that produced this, you're right. We are just going to be dealing with another, incident and pass the sentencing hearing into the summer. And, what is that? What is that the big idea? You can't be jumping up and down. We have to, of course, hope for the best in these situations, but, you can't think, this is step one. This is step one of where we should be headed towards accountability. But in no way would it be justice, because justice would have George playing with his daughter and us not even know his, name as a hashtag. You're never going to get to that. But it is, in a sense, one step in that future conversation.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. And I don't want to be a doomsday person. I mean, I have hope, and I see progress. I see the progress that we're making. It's slow, but we are progressing forward. After the initial George Floyd incident, I had a lot of people, particularly a lot of my white friends, reaching out,
sure,
in solidarity, which was great to see. But also, did you not see the 1,000 others? Like, did you? yes, this was different than some of the others, but
in that it was recorded for 10 minutes for the world to see. But at the same time, it's not like the previous ones. You weren't documented in a certain other way. We all knew what the outcome was. But you're right, the game changer.
But did George Floyd, is there not something to be said about waking up with George Floyd, being so-called woke with George Floyd?
Mm-hmm.
Does it not, to a certain extent, mean that the thousands of others were ignored? Like how many times does this have to happen?
Right.
Like it's there. I don't know. I just ask myself, all of these questions just go on in my head. Like surely there was somebody, in the 1960s or saw Emmett Till killed and oh my gosh, this happened. Well, what about 300 years before that? You didn't read that?
Yeah.
There were a million Emmett Tills. There were thousands of Emmett Tills on that boat that died coming from Africa to here.
Yes.
And this is the one.
Yeah.
Like, and we're we're in the 2020s, and we're acting like Emmett Till didn't happen. We're acting like this other person didn't happen. We're acting like, when do we wake up?
Right.
When do we wake up? But I'll get off the soapbox.
No.
Go ahead.
No. That's what this platform is for. And I understand. I understand. Why did it have to take thousands upon thousands of these instances for this one, for us to collectively wake up? And whether it is the advent of social media or just these devices, that can broadcast what's happening, it did hit different. It did spur the summer that we had. However, one instance, rest in peace, but one instance is not going to bring the system down, unfortunately. And to really get to those root issues, we have to collectively, like you said, all the different communities that have been marginalized and oppressed in this way, we need to figure out a way to just communicate to each other that this has been part of, this is the playbook. This is what it's all for, and not, voting rights, which other way, that is the end goal. And so that's why I think, not only having you on the show, but also what we're going to be getting into discussions next week, through our IG live discussions, is the many ways that we're fighting. We're fighting for equality. We're fighting for justice in every sense of the word. So I just appreciate you're being candid and it's raw. It's very, very visceral, that we're having to live through. If you're any group that's dark skin here in this country, it's stuff you have to think about. These are daily, weekly interactions that we do go through, and just happy that we're able to share that. So getting back to the history, and you were saying how you were raised, right? Let's kind of take it back to that upbringing with your parents. Both, you said they were active in your lives, and you are a middle child, correct? Of you have an older brother, Terrell, and a younger brother, Sean, I believe. And I mean, do you have sisters as well, or just the three?
Yeah, there are 5 kids. My parents got after it. Let's say that. There are 5 kids within 10 years. My oldest brother, Myron, Then there's Terrell. My sister is actually in the middle. Then me, and my youngest brother is a year and 3 months younger than me.
So a lot going on. You were right in the middle of all of that.
I was, and it was a good position to be in because I could see some of the things that my older brothers and my sister went through, and sort of navigate, some of the pitfalls of life early on.
Okay, and so what were those pitfalls that you're speaking about? Like, was that just growing up in a town like St. Louis, or what did that have to deal with?
Well, I had a choice. You mentioned Sean, and remind me, we can get back to Sean, my younger brother. My oldest brother, Myron, the first child, parents are trying to figure it out. Young parents, they had him when they were 22, 23 years old. He wasn't fortunate enough to be like me, to be able to watch other siblings, do well or make mistakes and choose his direction. So early on, now the story ends well. Let me say that. My brother's fine. He's got a beautiful son, wife. He's successful. But early on, he was a knucklehead. He had some problems. He getting in trouble. Fighting. Hanging out with the wrong people. In high school, he was as good of an athlete as any of us, but that inhibited him from fulfilling that dream. Terrell learned a lot of things from that, and he avoided some of those mistakes. Terrell is, dominated in high school, dominated in college, played, 7, 8 years in the NFL. Thanks to some of the things that he saw to avoid that my oldest brother had to go through. My oldest brother, to a large extent, bared the cross, bared the burden for his siblings that came after him.
Sure.
But I learned a lot from them both. Now, Sean, my youngest brother, he was a good athlete, had a different path. He's seeing Terrell in the NFL, then me in the NFL. Sean came out of high school, went to junior college, Palomar, out here in San Diego, or in the San Diego area. After Palomar, he went to San Jose State. Now, in my family, I'll just say, growing up, success was mostly defined by just being a good person, first of all, and then athletics, how well you did in athletics. Now, Sean got to a point where the athletic part wasn't going to happen. He wasn't going to the NFL. He recognized that. He changed the family by redefining what success looked like. Okay. Mom, Dad, you have this picture of Terrell on the wall in his NFL uniform. You have this picture of Bryan on the wall. I'm going to go back to school and make you put a doctorate degree on the wall.
Right.
He got his master's. He got his doctorate degree. And we're a competitive family. So I'll go back and get my MBA. Terrell gets his doctorate, master. My sister goes back and goes back and gets her master's, her doctorate. My oldest brother finishes school, gets his degree. Like, he changed our way of thinking, and he in his own way, set parameters and set what it meant to be, what success meant for everybody in his family. My oldest brother is 10 years older, or 10 years older than him. He set a bar outside of what we considered success at the time, and made us all better for it, even though he knew he was never going to go to the NFL or anything like that. And he's an inspiration. All of my brothers and sisters are inspirations, but he's an incredible person, and he really was an inspiration to me, for sure.
Wow. And I think that's so important to hear for any parents that are really like listening in to this episode, because, so many times if you have children, right, brothers or sisters that are competitive, or athletics is something that drives them, and you see a potential, possible career or college or whatever, to understand that, look, there's different ways you're going to measure that success, and to have everything just be riding on your physical ability. That is something that, maybe so many parents really get trapped in, and not understanding, not being open to, look, there's so many ways you can define success. Is being happy, is, being content with who you are. And so I think that's a really cool teaching moment that you guys were all, after watching that, you were able to say, oh, look, there's different ways we can push each other. And it's, there's no one right way to do this. And let's all, push each other. And, plaques on the wall for everyone is all you can hope for. That's awesome, man. That's really cool.
Yeah. Everyone has talents. And there's success is not measured in money. It's not measured in being on TV. It's not measured in Twitter followers. Status. It's not measured. You go out there, you make the most of what God has put in you, and the talent that you have. You work your butt off. You work hard. And what else can you do? Like, that's success. It doesn't matter if you have $5 in the bank. That has nothing to do with success.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you didn't play in the NFL. Doesn't matter if you didn't go to this school or that school. You go out, you work hard, you maximize your potential, and wherever you fall, you're successful.
That's where you should end up, sure. And I think that's a perfect segue into, your work ethic, right? That was instilled in you, obviously, with siblings that, pushed each other into your college career, right? At UCLA, you played football there. You were all Pac-10, right? You were part of the all Pac-10 team, and you had leadership awards. And from that point, you got drafted by the Bears, and into your football career. Let's talk about that kind of grinding, that mindset of just working hard, letting your work ethic and your diligence and just leaving it all out there, how that really, just shaped you in those years.
Yeah. So, I can tell the Super Bowl story. I could tell, some other stories, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but sort of the backstory. So I play tight end in the NFL. A typical tight end is 240, 250, 260 even, 260 pounds. I was coming out of high school. I was 201 pounds.
Soaking wet.
When I first got on the scale at UCLA, I was 201 pounds. In the NFL, I was 230 something, but to be honest, after a few training sessions, sweating, I was
got that down to 220.
Yeah, 220. We would have weigh-ins on every Tuesday, and oh my gosh, I'm like, they're gonna run me out of here. I'm just pounding drinks to try to put on some weight, put on a couple extra pounds. But I was always undersized as far as weight is concerned, for the position that I played.
That makes it hard to block, right? A lot of your position is blocking. It's not just, these little routes. You're going up against other very big guys.
Yeah. But I was fortunate enough to at that time, the Chicago Bears, like, if you didn't look the part as far as on paper, you weren't going to get a chance. So, that didn't work out. But the Colts gave me an opportunity. Jim Irsay, the owner, Bill Polian, the general manager at the time, Tony Dungy, the most awesome person next to my dad, I'll say. They didn't really care. They just cared what you can do, and they gave me a chance. And I'm very fortunate that they gave me a chance, because even at that time I was undersized, but it was a great learning experience to be a part of that organization, to be a part of people who really cared about you. At that organization at the time, under the structure, you weren't just a number. You weren't just. It wasn't a churning wheel. Like I'll down to the fact of Coach Dungy.
Yes.
So he's obviously, he is who you think he is. He's a great man behind the scenes. In front of the cameras, he is who he is. But to show you how much he cared about us, so our 401ks. The NFL at that time, I don't know what it is now, but at that time we had a 2-to-1 matching program. You put in $1, they put in $2. And Coach Dungy is thinking about us and thinking about our futures, well beyond just playing. If you didn't put into that 401k, he was going to shame you in the meeting. He would put all of our names up on the screen. Those who put in, if you didn't put in, he put your name on the screen. Well, we have this program, the 401k is 2-to-1 matching. Everyone should do it. And these are the people who have not done it yet.
Talk about accountability, right?
Right. So he made you plan for your future, life after football. Like he cared about us. He cared. You don't always get
that in the locker room. You do not always get that out of your coach.
You very rarely get it, but it was a great organization. I've gone off on a tangent, but
no, it was a great organization. No, yeah, and I mean that I think had a big way in at least researching your efforts in the indie community and wanting to invest in the person, not just the number. Is that when you really first started saying, hey, I want to be more involved in using my platform, whether it's public speaking in Indianapolis or visiting, hospitals, or, what you chose to do on your off days? Was that kind of the moment, was that time, or Coach Dungy for that matter, someone who impacted you to really understand the power you had?
No, not really. To be honest, it starts with my mom and dad. They just taught me to be a good person. to be completely honest, we grew up, in a religious family, and they just taught even beyond that. They just taught us values. They taught us, hey, if somebody if somebody's hungry, feed them.
Sure.
And don't expect anything in return. If somebody needs a shirt and you have 2 of them, give them 1 of them.
Right.
I don't think necessarily in terms of platform. Everybody has a platform. Every single person. It's just a matter of how big it is. Okay, so all right, I'm in the NFL. I'm on TV, so there are more people,
more eyeballs
that I can reach. But it doesn't matter if you know a single person. If you're part of a family. If your platform is 3 people, if it's 10 people, if it's 20 people, or if it's millions of people like a LeBron James, everybody has a platform.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think in terms of a platform of NFL or a platform of NBA or things like that. Everybody has a platform. Mine was just bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton's is way bigger than mine.
Sure.
LeBron's is bigger than Peyton's. You know, the president of the United States is bigger than all of their platforms. It's just it's a matter of how you use it.
Right.
So you know, it started off in the NFL. I was just doing what I was taught. I was just doing what was in my heart. Like, hey, there's some kids that want you to talk to them.
Just give them back.
Go talk to them.
Right.
You know,
don't overthink it.
Right. Don't overthink it. They're in a formative stage in their life. I was there trying to figure out, you know, what path. I'm just old enough to start thinking for myself. My parents, I'm getting to an age where my parents can't tell me everything to do. So there are a gazillion influences out there, both positive and negative. They want to hear me speak. So go tell them what you learned, what I learned growing up. Treat people right. Work hard. A lot of other things. What success looks like. What the perseverance of fighting through things. Nobody who's ever been successful has not been. Everybody has gone through things. Everybody has wanted to quit. Everybody has wanted to give up. Everybody has thought, can I do this? Should I just quit? Should I just go back to where I was? Should I go 5 steps back? Everybody has done that. There's no Superman. There's no Superman, Wonder Woman out here. There are those who push through it and worked hard, and those who quit. Mm-hmm. If you push through it, if you persevere, there's a positive outcome on the other side. Whether you talk about athletics, whether you talk about academics, whether you talk about George Chauvin, the George Floyd situation, whether you talk about civil rights, whether you talk about persevering in any aspect, there is a law that's tried and true. If you work hard, if you put in the effort, if you don't give up, there is a better outcome on the other side. And that's what I applied to my career. That's what I try to apply to my career. That's what I've seen historically when people have overcome. And it works. It works. If you just can't give up, you have to have hope.
Right.
You have to have hope.
You're so right. You're so right. And I think that also cuts back to what you were saying initially, how we're all in this collective struggle, this collective fight together. And it's, you may have a bigger platform than others, but it's about using what you have. It's about using your, if you want to call it a network, or you want to call it, relationships, or your family, or your friends. It's just about being engaged and willing to work and willing to put the work in. At the end of the day, as I think what you're saying, and I couldn't agree more. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things and put status on our society because we are, for lack of a better word, we are an entertainment-based economy. Things do seem flashier and bigger, but at the end of the day, it just goes to, what you're engaged in that day, that week. Just keep pounding, keep chipping at it. And so before we get to your post playing career and touch on your internship, I think at a U.S. embassy overseas in Spain, which I want to get into, I have to ask just about that 06 team. Just the football nut in me, just playing Madden, right, with Marvin Harrison or Reggie Wayne. What was that locker room like? And just take me through that ride if you can. Like, what do you remember as being just really influential moments on that run for that reign?
It was an incredible experience. Like I said, and it started from the top. Like the tone was set from the owner to Coach Dungy, Peyton Manning. The tone was set from the top. We cared about each other. We pushed each other. We wanted to win after getting beat by the Patriots for a gazillion times. We wanted to win. We supported each other. It was a very warm environment and a really great experience. The Super Bowl, I mean, it's. I didn't even believe that we had actually won it till like a month after the Super Bowl.
Is that because the culmination of beating maybe the former team that drafted you, or just the hype of it all? Just in awe, in shock that, we really just came out on top in the biggest game.
It was my lifelong dream. Like, it's from so Terrell in high school is playing, and I'm young, and I got a lot of pleasure of putting on his high school helmet, and I'm like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, with his helmet jiggling around because it's way too big, and him letting me put on my shoulder pad his shoulder pads, and dreaming as a young person to be a football athlete, to win a Super Bowl. And then I just did it. And then I'll also add this. The gravity of it. It's not just a game. It's not just. So I speak Spanish, right? And I've traveled a lot. And I'm just telling you my experience. I'm not speaking for every athlete that won the Super Bowl or anything like that. So to string together a few things. So I speak Spanish, and I had traveled a lot. So on media day, at the Super Bowl, there's media day.
Like 2-3 days.
Right. And media from all over the world, China, South America, Middle East, Argentina, where, I travel, Mexico, all around the world. I was the only person that spoke Spanish on the team. So, and by the way, the least accomplished athlete that was playing that actually got on the field. I mean, you're talking about Peyton, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark.
That's right.
So media day, I had the second or third most media around me. Now, they were all Spanish speaking because nobody else. So Dwight Freeney comes down.
Legend.
And he was just curious. He's like, why does Bryan have so much media around him? Like, he is the least accomplished person. But it was because, I had all the Spanish-speaking media around me. But from my travels, my friends in Argentina are calling me. My friends in Mexico are calling me. My friends in Spain are calling me. My friends in Colombia are calling me. Bryan, we saw you on TV. Blah, blah. How's it going? We saw this interview, things like that. But one of the biggest things that just hit me hard before the game was the national anthem. So we're walking up to the numbers for the national anthem. And on the Jumbotron, there were our troops, in the middle of the night there, watching us, having a couple of hours to take from what they were going through there. To watch me play, who am I? These people are risking their lives. And they're taking a couple of hours in the middle of the night there to watch me catch a football. That was a very humbling experience. And it was a very moving experience. You know, I was in tears, and most of us were in tears, but it was an incredible moment. And in any given year, there's only one team that can end the season with a win. So to end the season with a win means winning the Super Bowl, and it means something that nobody else out there
It's history. It's history, man.
It's history.
That's awesome.
It's history. It is history. But it was an incredible year on so many different levels, even outside of that.
Right. But I think what's so interesting about that example is, like, again, you're redefining what is accomplished, what is success, right? Like, just with that, just knowing a different language, you know, at that time during the media, you know, coverage, it just goes back to be the best that you want to be. And what was it that got you into, you know, taking Spanish courses or diving into that culture, for that matter? That was just your path. And so we should stop, normalizing that success or accomplishments can only come one way, because you'll never know when you're going to be the one tapped and you're going to be the one given the pressers. And so I guess that kind of segues into your post-playing career, maybe, stemming from a time you were overseas, right? Doing, maybe was this through the NFL, that internship where you were at like a U.S. embassy, and how that maybe spurred your work now here in San Diego, being involved in different organizations, the city commissioner's office, things of that nature. But, can you tell us a little more about that experience?
So I did 2 internships while I was in the NFL. The first one was, most people don't know that the NFL has an office in Mexico City. So my first internship, I did the first international internship of the NFL's internship program. And that was in Mexico City with NFL Mexico. And then the next year, I did the U.S. Embassy in Madrid, Spain. Had to debrief in the State Department, U.S. State Department first, and then I went to and worked for a couple of months in the U.S. Embassy in Madrid, Spain. How does that fit in with what I'm doing now? Well, it definitely piqued my interest. And I always had sort of a global mindset of, I don't just care about what goes on in the United States. I care about what's going on around the world. And then you start traveling and you have friends there. So you care about what's going on and what the president or the prime minister is doing. Because,
and after a year like 2020, understanding we're all in this biologically. We are dependent on each other. Hello.
Exactly. So those were great experiences. But back to your question, can you repeat your question?
Well, just like how that is kind of what you're doing now here in San Diego, the work you're doing here, in our communities, and kind of touch on that. But was that kind of a spark where you said, after my football playing career, I'm looking to get involved on these other endeavors? Maybe it's global, kind of politics. Maybe it's, just honing in on a second career, a different focus later on.
Yeah, I mean, I like politics, and I'm very interested in politics. I think just my personality and my goals. I think politics is one of the best ways to help as many people as possible at one time. I have great admiration for people. There's a lot of homeless advocates here in San Diego, that Amy Zamudo and others who are doing some great work. That one by one person, I have incredible admiration for people with that kind of ambition and that talent. I think politics is a way to help as many people as possible if you do it right. Mm-hmm. Let me say this. If you go into it with the right heart, the right ambitions, the right desires, it's a great way to help as many people as possible on a larger scale. I love politics, and I will go into politics at some point. But it all started from my childhood. It's my parents instilling something in me to give back to the community, to want to help somebody, to care, even if you get nothing back. Don't ever help somebody and then use it against them later. Don't ever help somebody and expect them to help you back. No, you don't want to get used. You got to be smart, but you know what I'm saying. Yes. And my parents have always instilled that in us, in all of their kids. And it has just grown from there. As I have progressed in my life, as you mentioned, I've had different platforms and larger platforms to use what I learned when I was a kid to help more and more people. It's not me. This is not about me. This is not about LeBron. This is not about Peyton Manning. This is not about Michael Castro. This is not about, it's as you progress in life, if you have the right foundation, if you have the right values, you're just naturally going to help more and more people.
In whatever you're doing, in whatever
you're doing. It does not matter if I lose everything and go on the street and I'm next to another homeless person. I'm going to tell them, I'm just going to have one person to talk to, and I'm just going to tell them the same thing.
Right.
Like, it doesn't change. It doesn't change. Like, that's the constancy that we need, the consistency that we need. Believe in something, have a value system that does not change with how much money you make. It does not change with what job you have. It does not change.
Right.
It does not matter. If you take everything from me, that has nothing to do with what I believe. And I can be the same person whether I played in the NFL or I didn't, like Sean.
Mm-hmm.
I can have the same success. I can have the same outcomes. I can have the same, like I said, beliefs and values in myself, belief in myself, whether I'm Black or Latino.
Right.
What I believe has nothing to do with my ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
Has nothing to do with how much money I have or how little money I have. It has nothing. My faith, my values are not in things.
Right. Right.
So when
Here,
when
that's
you
here.
when you can come to, it's very difficult to mess with the person when they come to that conclusion.
Right. Right.
That I don't care. I don't, obviously,
There's nothing to break. You can't break what I already know.
Right.
You can't
Right.
unlearn
Right.
that wisdom and that foundation. It's not
Right.
something it's tangible. It's innate,
Right.
and it's gonna stay through you until your last day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome,
I agree.
man. I love
I
that. I
agree.
love that mindset. I think so many people we need to start just portraying what we do day to day with that mindset. Stop tying things to, again, status, money, whatever it is. It's a collective mindset. It goes back to the collective mindset and being mindful of time. I'm just looking at the clock. I don't know where the time has gone, man, but I would love your take on this one last question, which I think kind of brings it all together in what we're doing right now with All-Star Advocacy here in San Diego, and how we're working together, how we're going to be affiliated with each other. But speaking to the youth here in San Diego, we talked a lot about family being a huge foundation for you in instilling who you are along this path. But for those that are I don't know, middle school, high school, college, even listening in and do have a part to play in athletics, maybe are just getting into sport or not, but learning about their platform in general. What would you tell San Diego youth who understand what times we're living in? What can you tell them in terms of advocating for their community, or at what level these things start? What level it started for you to begin thinking this way, to begin really looking at the world through that lens? What would you tell them listening in?
What I would tell the youth today is, in San Diego, first of all, perseverance, working hard. There's no way around working hard. There's no way around persevering through struggles. There are some people that have it easier than others. There are some people who are born into a situation than others. But there's no way around perseverance. There's no way around listening to those who have been through it before. Like a lot of times, and I was the same way when I was young, a lot of times, you're young and you think that you know everything. You think that, but there is a such thing. Like, we don't have to always learn from our mistakes. We can learn from other people's mistakes. So
Work smarter, not harder, kids.
Right. So listen to what your parents say to you. Listen to or look and see and perceive some of the things and the outcomes that you've seen out there. You don't have to go through, we don't always have to go through a lot of the things that we go through. But hard work, perseverance, never giving up, the tenacity of seeing your dreams come true and wanting it. Everybody is going to go through hard times. Everybody, no matter who you are, but do not give up. Just don't give up. Don't lose hope. The sun is going to come up tomorrow. There's going to be a tomorrow. The only way that things don't get better is if you stop trying. Because if you stop trying, well, you're going to be stuck in the situation that you're in. If you want a better situation, you better keep fighting to move forward. So, that's ineloquently, that's what comes to my mind right now.
No,
But if you have to keep fighting. We spoke about George Floyd, and I spoke about that for 400 years this has been happening. I have no choice but to fight and hope for a better tomorrow. If I don't, then what? I just give up on everything? No. We're moving forward with this thing, and we're going to get better. I have to say, yeah, for 400 years this has been happening, but
what's the alternative? What's the alternative if we don't fight?
Right. The progress is slow, but there's definitely progress. I mean, I'm not going through what my father went through. I'm not, I don't want to get myself in trouble going too deep, but I'm not going through what my father went through. He had a tougher road. He fought through. He instilled some things into his kids. We still have some problems. We fight through it. And we keep going forward. It's slow. It's a long and windy road to justice and freedom and things like that. And it takes a lot longer than we'd like. And it's a river. There's an undercurrent. There's some folk that get drugged down and die along the way. But you cannot stop that river. It's going to get there. We're going to get what we deserve. We're going to, all of us, we're going to get to the end of it. It's just long. And the waves are hard. And we get fatigued. But I would encourage, if you're standing on the shore, you're where you are. You're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. If you're in the water, even how tumultuous it can be, you are still going towards where we need to be. So jump in. Jump in that river.
Get involved.
I'll just say that.
Get active. Get off the sidelines.
Yeah.
Bryan, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. There was so much we spoke about here in the time that we had, and I can't thank you enough for just being who you are, spreading your message, spreading your truth, and continuing to be a part of this community. And I have no doubt that over the next week, in the coming years, I think we're going to be very very intertwined with the work that we're doing and the work we're seeing you do. So thank you for gracing us with all these important topics and conversations. I think we're gonna have these for years to come. Keep building and keep pushing.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Of course, man. Well, that about wraps it up for our 6th episode of the All-Star Advocacy Podcast. Stay tuned for more.